Hi, welcome back to Your Quilting Journey. Today we're going to talk about sewing machines and how to set them up. Are you intimidated by your sewing machine? Do you not know what all the buttons are for and all the little gadgets? Well, today I'm going to walk you step by step through setting up your sewing machine. When my mom and my grandma were trying to teach me how to sew, we didn't quite go over the basics well enough for me to understand how to work the sewing machine. So every time I used the sewing machine, I got frustrated. I didn't know how to thread the machine when it became unthreaded. I didn't know what the tension issues were. I didn't know how to rewind the bobbin. So every time I needed help, they had to jump in and do it for me. To eliminate that frustration for you, we're going to walk through everything you need to know on how to work your sewing machine. The first thing we're going to go over are the sewing machine terms and what everything is, okay? So first of all, we're going to turn on the machine, and that's here on the side. We're working on the Brother machine. These are the machines I use in my classroom. It's a fairly inexpensive machine and very user-friendly, so it's a great machine to get started on. The first thing you see is this computered numbers here. This is what's going to change your stitches. Okay, so here are all the stitches that are pre-programmed in this machine. So for 0, 0, the machine stitch is over here on the left. For 0, 1, it's going to be straight in the middle. So we'll change this to 1. And then it changes your stitch to be right in the middle of your foot. And so on. So we've got zigzag stitches, specialty designs, all that kind of stuff. Button stitches, everything you would need to make any project you want. And then these numbers up here are your stitch length and your stitch width. So a lot of times we're going to change that stitch length to 2.0. And that will just shorten the stitch so they're not as far apart. They're a little closer together. For a zigzag stitch, so let's change it to 0.4. Now your stitch length is 1.4. I usually leave that alone unless I want it to be more of a satin stitch, which is a zigzag that's right on top of each other, so you don't even see the zigzag. It's just completely together. And then for the width, you can change it to be a wider stitch or a narrower stitch. So occasionally we use this in quilting when we're doing applique by machine, things like that. But for the most part, you're going to stick with this middle stitch length of 0, 1. And then change your stitch length to 2.0. Okay, this bar here is your speed. So if you have it all the way down, the machine's going to drive really, really slowly. So let me show you that. Well, you have to put your foot down. So really slowly. And then the more you crank it up, faster and faster it'll go. So at first, start somewhere near the slow end to the middle until you get comfortable with it, and then you can start going faster and just use your pedal, which is the thing on the floor that you're pressing with your foot. This. Then you can start maneuvering it with this instead of the bar here. Okay, this button here is going to lower or raise our needle. So a lot of machines have one of these handy buttons. We like to keep the needle in the down position a lot of the time because it will hold our fabric in place while we're adjusting it. This button is to go backwards, and that will set your seams in place. So what is the foot? This little guy is your foot. Okay, this is a 1/4 inch seam foot. It has a handy little guide here, so you can just put your fabric right up to that guide and you'll have a perfect, most of the time, perfect 1/4 inch seam. Now once in a while this little plate will get shifted a little bit and you might have to rebend it back towards itself so that it can be a 1/4 inch foot again. And you can always check that with a seam gauge or with your ruler. Make sure that from the center point of your foot to the edge is 1/4 inch. There's several different kinds of feet. So this is your 1/4 inch foot. This is an N foot, and it's just a wide open foot, so you can do your zigzag stitch, pretty much anything. So this is your every purpose tool for a foot. And then another foot we use a lot is a walking foot. This is great for doing your stitching in the ditch when we get to the quilting. It can be useful for thicker materials if you're doing a t-shirt quilt, things like that. But it is not a 1/4 inch, so you would have to mark your 1/4 inch on your machine, which we will learn in another video. So I'm going to put my 1/4 inch foot back on. There's a bar right here that slides right onto the arm, which is what it's called, an arm, and I just lower it right onto it and it snaps in place. A lot of machines are built this way. If yours is not, refer to your user manual on how to adjust your foot. Let me show you how to change your regular foot to a walking foot. So you're going to undo this screw here, and that drops the arm of your foot. You're going to lift up the lever here and take it out. That helps. Then your walking foot has a little U-shaped hook here and a U-shaped hook here. So these both have to go around different areas. So this first part is going to go right where that other arm was. Usually I have to undo the screw a little bit more, but try not to take the screw out because that makes it difficult. Now this arm right here, let's see if I can get my hand all the way, goes right around your needle arm. So you'll want to back it up just a little bit and make sure it goes over that. Okay, and then you can tighten your screw back up. Whoop. Okay, and just get it snug. You don't have to get it real tight, but you don't want it too loose that it might come undone as you're sewing. That's not fun. Okay, so I have some fabric here, and let me just show you how this arm works. Okay, so one thing we didn't talk about were the feed dogs. That is this little thing on the bottom with all the little pokies on it. There's a lever usually in the back that you can push over to the side, and that will lower your feed dogs. Most of the time you're going to sew with your feed dogs up, so double check that those are up. Once you raise it back up, you'll just lower your needle and they'll pop right back up. Okay, so these feed dogs work in conjunction with the feed dogs on your walking foot so that they move the fabric together like this. Usually the feed dogs are going like this on the bottom and your fabric's just gliding on the top of it. Well, if you have a type of fabric that you have two pieces put together that you want them to stay together, using a walking foot can be helpful for that. Otherwise, one fabric might move faster than the other, and then by the time you're done sewing, your top piece has shifted just a little bit. So this can be a helpful tool. So let me show you how it works. Can you see how those are moving together? And it's moving the feed dogs together at the same time. So that can be a helpful tool for you when you're doing stitching in the ditch, when you're done with your quilt blocks, or if you're piecing something with really thick material like t-shirts, or even harder material if you're quilting with satin or flannel, all those kind of things. This is a very helpful tool to use when you're quilting. Thank you for watching. I hope this tutorial was helpful for you. In the next lesson, we'll learn how to thread our machine. See you then!